For the past 9 months, I have been very, very obsessed with Noah Kahan's music. During his Stick Season tour, he added a show to my state, and I was this close to packing up and going to see him, but I did not. It was then, to my absolute pleasure, when he announced the We'll All Be Here Forever tour, and he had a date in Kansas City, which happens to be where my grandparents live. I asked my cousin and my friend if they would theoretically be interested in going on a road trip in June to see him, and unsurprisingly, they were. So we signed up for the pre-sale, got our ticket codes, and much to our relief, got tickets. Around this time that we got his tickets were when Taylor Swift's Eras tour was like in full swing, and the crochet community was absolutely killing it with like the blankets and sweaters and stuffed animals and outfits. And there were just so many projects like surrounding her and the tour. I had seen a couple of like Noah Kahan concert fit posts and videos, but I was fully ready to like hype up this tour to the extent that the Eras tour was hyped up. So naturally, I started planning my outfit. Obviously, if you know Noah Kahan at all, my first thought was to wear overalls or something that was like brown and baggy and like comfy but not boring. But then I remembered that I'm a crafter and I have to like overcommit, and I also have to make things way too hard for myself. I started brainstorming ideas for things that I could crochet. My first crochet idea was to do like a sweater or a cardigan, but this tour was going to be in June outside, so I wrote that idea out pretty quick. My second idea was to make a tank top from granny squares that were each made in a color scheme of a different Noah Kahan album. Like, there are a few covers like Come Down, I Was, I Am, Hallelujah, that are just begging to be granny squares. Unfortunately, there are also many, like Cape Elizabeth, Stick Season, We'll All Be Here Forever, that would literally just be a monotone square. So I decided the granny squares were not like bold and obvious enough for this project, and I wanted to do something bigger and cooler. So my next thought was still to use the album cover arts, but instead of making granny squares, to make tapestry squares, and then I'd like put them all together as a top. And I pixelated a few of those, and then I realized it was the same problem. Some of them were gonna look cool, some of them were just gonna be monotone. My next idea was to make a tapestry tank top, but to incorporate some like items that he mentions in his lyric. I was pretty committed to this idea actually, and I started sketching out some of the objects on graph paper. So I made a Target symbol, a glass of orange juice, a cigarette, a phone, a leather couch, a fish. I did a practice run on an airplane then, and I realized that I am trash at tapestry crochet. I did a couple of practice squares following like different techniques, different patterns, and then I just realized that in general I don't love how tapestry looks in this context for like small scale things. It's cool when people do like big projects and it's like the pixels are small enough that it still shows all the detail, but these, my vision, like they would have just been too small and they would not have looked good even if it was done perfectly. So finally, after all of those ideas that were not gonna work, I have my working idea for this top. I'm going to make a cute, simple, like neutral color tank top, and then I'm gonna crochet and attach different like applique patches of different items from his lyrics. I don't have a ton of applique experience, just as I don't have very much tapestry experience, but this is the idea we're working with and it sounds like it's more attainable, so fingers crossed. With this idea that was relatively fully formed, I was able to pick a tank top pattern and order some yarn and get started. And as it happened, around the time that I had this vision, Sam and I were as it happened, right after the yarn arrived, Sam and I were actually about to go on a trip to Minnesota. So I thought that that would be a really fun time to get the project started. So in the car on the way to Minnesota, started crocheting. Just working on some straps here. Sam and I were also listening to Ear Biscuits, the mythical podcast with Rhett and Link, and I accidentally the night before called it ear muffins, and it took both of us like 12 hours to realize my mistake there. So that's awkward. When we got to the cabin, it was very cute. It was just a little like one room studio sort of deal, but it was in the woods. It was relatively secluded. There were a ton of these little like trailer cabins around, so it wasn't as secluded as like we thought it was going to be, but it was still very pretty. The cabin was real cute. It was definitely small, but it had like a little kitchenette thing. It had a queen size bed, it had a table, and the best part was the giant window that looked out onto the woods that were on the grounds, and also looked out to see Sam scrounging for firewood in the woods. It was November in Minnesota, so it was a little chilly, but it wasn't like too cold yet. There was a fire pit, and we brought stuff for s'mores. So we made a little fire, and we had a good little chat by the fire, stayed chilly. I ate an embarrassing amount of s'mores.
That sounds like the Ice Age scream.
But if you know me, I can't eat any s'mores without eating an embarrassing amount of s'mores. So that was pretty on brand. That tracked for me. In this clip, you can also see how small the cabin is. There was a little bathroom in there with a little shower and a toilet. But like, look at that. We lived there for like 3 days. That's crazy. It's so small. If you're interested in this cabin, this is not at all sponsored, but it was fun and I would recommend, so I will drop a link in the bio. While we're at the fire, I had actually just finished reading the Hunger Games trilogy, and I was looking at this fire. I don't spend a lot of time around fire. I'm kind of scared of fire, honestly. It's real hot and burns hurt, but I was staring at the embers when the fire was dying, and I understood in Catching Fire when Katniss and Peeta were wearing the like embery dresses with like the smoldering embers. I get why that was cool now. Embers are real cool to watch. Day 2, after getting to the cabin, we spent the night there. The next day was our day that we were driving to Duluth to spend the day. It was about like an hour drive, so we wanted to just like spend one day there and get it out of the way and do all the things that we wanted to do. So we took the drive, did a little bit crochet, listened to a bit of Fleet Foxes, and had ourselves a nice little morning drive. Our first stop of the day was Glen Jean Mansion. It's a super pretty property that sits right on the coast of Lake Superior. It was built in the early 1900s by Chester and Clara Congdon and has been open for tours since 1979. The mansion grounds currently extend 12 acres and house bridges, water features, and multiple buildings. I was very tempted to go into a tunnel that this little stream flowed through, but was slightly comforted by this squirrel in the tree dropping grapes on us. The mansion itself has 39 rooms, and we took the self-guided tour that included all 5 levels. Video recording was not permitted inside the house, so we are going to do this slideshow style. Inside the house, basically front and center, was this horrifying stuffed fox on the landing. His face, unfortunately, still haunts my dreams to this day. Almost all the bathrooms had these giant, nice, deep bathtubs that I aspire to soak in. I have a distaste for baths after they were a regular part of my Lyme detoxing treatment plan, but the idea of being able to be in a bath, fully submerged, still sounds fun to me. We also had to take advantage of these big mirrors that were in all the bedrooms. The guest room had this wicker lounging chair with a crochet blanket that I want to make. Like, look at that scalloped edge. Maybe I'm a sucker for scalloped edges, but those are so cute. One of their sons loved birds and had a bunch of these little birdies painted on his wall, and I absolutely approve. I am also a sucker for wallpaper, and these flowers just brought me so much joy that I cannot explain. In the attic, there was another crochet blanket with scalloped edges, and I once again want to copy it and gift it to a baby. This was not actually part of the house, but there was a display with a picture of these drawings that really reminded me of Winnie the Pooh, and I had to remember it because they gave me childlike joy. I really love it when people before cameras loved their cats so much as to commission a painting with it. Like, this girl and her cat are my spirit animal. The look on that cat's face is so unreadable, but I can only imagine the ire it was experiencing upon being cradled and made to pose with this girl for hours. There were a bunch of magazines and newspapers from the time laying around, and this one had a poem that caught my eye because it was called All Things Bright and Beautiful, and that just sounds beautiful. Sam also pointed out this article titled "Can the Stout Woman Look Graceful?" and depicted 3 very skinny ladies to accompany it. In the master bedroom, there was also a bench at the end of the bed that reminded me of something.
What a cute bench.
Thanks, that's my bed. It's actually a lot bigger than it seems. Look at this.
See? He fits perfectly.
This bedroom was, I believe, one of the daughters' rooms, and I just really loved the little stuffed animals on the bed. I fully support any grown adult that wants stuffed animals on their bed. This magazine showed the correct apron for maids, and they're so cute. I want to make one for myself, and then I can play maid when I'm doing household chores, and it can be like fun instead of just doing chores. This formal dress was on display in the dining room, and it was so gorgeous. It will probably be a very long time before I get around to sewing a dress again, but I would love to recreate this at some point because look at it! There are more of these kids' drawings in the basement, and I just cannot get over how cute they are. I am sure that they're just an artistic addition to the tour and not actually original to the house, but I don't care. They're so stinking cute. Oh my gosh, how did this get in here? That's so embarrassing. But who are these cuties? Probably celebrating an anniversary or something. Oh, how adorable. And look at those hats. Definitely crocheted, probably homemade. I mean, whoever made those must be talented. And if you want to learn how to make a flower granny square bucket hat of your own, you can find out how to do so with this little video right here. On the grounds of the house, on the bank of the lake, is this giant shark creation, not original to the mansion, but made out of wood from boats that wrecked on the lake, I think. I'm gonna be honest, at this point it's been over a month since we were there, so my memory is not as fresh as it could be, but I think that is at least, vaguely correct. That is the end of the pictures of the house and the grounds, so I'm going to leave you with some videos of the grounds and the streams and water features because they are so pretty. Enjoy. Next up in the trip was the Lake Superior Maritime Visitor Center. This is a free museum right by the canal passing under the aerial lift bridge leading to the Duluth Harbor Basin. In the center was a hallway with models of 3 different compartments that could be found on a freighter ship, and the human figures inside jump scared me every time I walked by. Literally, why are these so terrifying? One of my goals for this trip was to buy and complete a puzzle, so I bought this Duluth alphabet puzzle, and spoiler alert, I finished it in less than a day. Outside the gift shop was a window display of a steering wheel or something, and in the corner it had the cutest little black and white kitty statue that looked like a cat we had at school. Outside the center was 2 piers, one on either side of the canal. We went down one to see the lighthouse, then crossed the scary aerial bridge and walked to see the lighthouse on the other side, and there were some really nice seagulls on the way. There was also some fun graffiti, including this inappropriate one that Sam wanted me to take a picture of, but I cannot show it on this family-friendly channel. There were also these pigeons, including one that was tan and white rather than gray. He did not want to be my friend, though. Hi, friend. Personally, my favorite stop was Yarn Harbor. It was a very cute, locally owned fiber store in Duluth. They have so many yarns, which are all very cute and very nice to touch. They also had some finished projects sitting out, my favorite of which were these adorable knit sheep by Susan B. Anderson. I will link the Ravelry pattern below if you want to make one of your own. I spent an embarrassing amount of time in the shop trying to figure out what I wanted to make, but I finally settled on the Crochet Eriu cardigan, available for free on crochetwithcarrie.com. I needed 8 skeins, which narrowed down the color options a bit, but I still had to decide between a darker gray, rustic orange, lighter gray, and an orangey brown. With Sam's help, though, I settled on the orangey brown and paraded out with my armful of yarn. We had some time to kill before dinner time, so we walked along a street of shops for a while, and I bought this little Mr. Moose to keep me company. There was this little dollhouse shop that looked so cute, but they were closed, so I had to resign myself to window shopping. There were quite a few shops selling handmade fiber, but one of my favorites was this baby pumpkin hat and sweater set. The third and final full day of the trip was dedicated to relaxing in the cabin. I started out by finishing the puzzle I started the night before, unfortunately making really good time because it was not even late morning before I finished it. Then I did more crocheting and got 2 of the 4 straps done for the shirt. While reading, I was distracted by this black kitty wandering around outside. I tried to go befriend him, but he ran away from me. Later in the day, Sam went out on a walk through the woods, and Mr. Moose and I got lonely, so we followed him out. There was a nice trail that was well kept while still feeling like it was nature-y. And my water bottle was clinking ice very loudly in my pocket, so we're not going to do any cute aesthetic stuff here, sorry. I thought that the highlight of the walk was going to be this toilet that we found, but then we came across these butchered trees that could be the work of none other than beavers. Much to my excitement, we heard some splashing coming from the river and scaled/fell down the embankment to see what we could see. Mr. Beaver swam away from the first dam we visited, but my Crocs were able to carry me a little ways upstream and see a few little beavers swimming around. this point, it was getting dark, so Sam was the smart one and decided we should go back to the cabin, but the walk back showed even more beaver destruction that brought me a lot of joy. Sadly, day 4 was just a day to go home, but on the bright side, there were some fun billboards on the highway. I started the trip off right by dropping my crochet hook under my seat and struggling very hard to retrieve it. Thankfully, though, I recovered it and was able to do some good crocheting on the drive back. After all 4 straps were done, we got to the point where we got to add them all together, and it was starting to look like a real top. I was sad that the trip was over so soon, but happy to get home and get some good Ponyo snuggles. Anyway, that is all for this video, but stay tuned for a part 2. Bye!
Oh.
I love it. It's huge.
Hello. How are you? Show them how cute you are. Ready?